Welcome to Get Motivated with Donato Parisi, a show designed to reach you where you are, focusing on the fact that you can be anything you want and desire. All you have to do is get motivated. If you need a challenge in your life, then look no further. Get Motivated with Donato begins now.
All right, welcome everyone to our podcast here today about getting motivated. We're excited, and we have Jodie Solberg with us today, and once again, an author, coach, and much more. She just got done writing a chapter here in the book, Women of Power Ignited to Serve. I'm getting all of the lovely ladies that were in this book on the podcast, and it's so awesome because we all have things to share. We all have life experiences, right? And us men can learn a thing or two from the women, from the things that they've gone through, if we just take the time to listen, open up, and understand things, right? So welcome, Jodie. And I just got to say, I love the title of the book or your chapter here, right? Embracing our strengths. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much, Donato. Yes, Embracing Our Strengths is my chapter. And I love that you said you can learn a lot from the ladies. You are surrounded by such powerful, amazing women. And the fact that, you recognize, you can definitely relate to a lot of the stories. They're very relatable. And for me, I wanted to share about embracing our strengths because it is really hard sometimes to see who we are and what we're good at or what those strengths might be and how we can actually use them to step into our power and to serve other people. And so I shared in there part of my journey. Like you said, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, I'm a therapist. I've actually been working therapeutically as well as coaching for over 20 years. I started doing coaching and consulting when I was in grad school for clinical psychology so that I could basically pay off my 6 figures in student loans that were accruing interest every time I breathed. And so I really wanted something that I could do on the side while I was working full time at my mental health clinic and going to school full time. And so I decided that I really wanted to help professionals to be able to present themselves. So I did some, image work, some helping with professional interviewing. I was teaching part of a college class on professional interviewing and doing a lot of networking with both men and women. But as a woman in business myself, I focused a lot on helping female entrepreneurs over the years. But alongside of that, I was working with kids and families and parents. I was helping people that were going through trauma and abuse and custody issues. And then I was helping people who were going through drug and alcohol addiction and health crises and, being caregivers themselves or having chronic conditions and diagnoses. And so I was doing all of this work basically side by side for many, many years. And then I really got burnt out. And I know that that's something that you and I have talked about that, everyone can relate to is, really giving everything to everybody else and then burning out yourself and not taking care of yourself. And so I made a lifestyle shift a few years ago. I decided to start my own private practice working virtually called Psyched Up Success, where I help people to overcome things like imposter syndrome, things like burnout, making sure that they can recover and heal from that and change their lifestyle in a way that supports them, helping them to overcome anxiety or depression, issues that really got compounded with the pandemic. So I actually started working virtually previous to when we had to, but I have just been so blessed by so many doors being opened through working virtually and being able to reach people all over the world. And especially now with speaking and being an author, it really opened those doors for me as well to be able to share and help more people.
That's great. And I want to get into all of that. But let's like try to take some small bites and kind of start with a little bit what you got in your chapter. And it was interesting the way you wrote it, probably for a couple of reasons, but the one thing I want to start with that I just thought was interesting, I related to a little bit too. It was from a young age, right? That, you know, you kind of were a protector of sorts. And, you know, because of those types of things, right? People would confide in you. They would ask you to help. They would just, you know, open up to you. You know, you were actually asked to counsel people, you know, that were your peers in school, right? So can you talk about a little bit of that I don't know, that unique childhood experience that you had?
So in the chapter, I wanted to talk about how I figured out what my strengths were, because a lot of times things come so naturally to us that we don't even realize that that's a strength of ours, because we don't actually even see that it's not normal for other people, right? That it's not so easy for them to do that. And so when I was looking back at what were the strengths that I could see now in hindsight, all the way from childhood, and one of them was definitely empathy, which I always knew was my greatest strength. That's why I became a therapist. And I remember in my interviews to get into grad school, it was, you know, what is your biggest strength and why? You know, they always ask that question in interviews. And really, for me, that was number one. It was apparent from the beginning. Like you said, people just always flocked to me and told me what was going on with them. But I also was able to really hold space for other people in school. The instance that you're mentioning is there was another student who tragically passed away in an accident in high school. And the teachers had asked me to actually counsel them because they saw that I was able to do that, and I was able to really to help take care of other people in that. And they you know, saw that strength in me and encouraged it. And, you know, teaching, I was a student teacher, so I was encouraged to, you know, help and, you know, facilitate learning for other students. So those kinds of things were seen in me, I guess, in a young age, and were really recognized. So those were easier, I think, sometimes to see. But when I looked back, the other thing is, and I see where you're going with the protector, because I could really relate to how other people were feeling and why they were feeling that way. And another one of my strengths is being an includer, which is really, you know, making sure that no one feels left out. And I was always friends with all different kinds of people. And I never wanted anybody to feel less than or feel left out. And so I would always make sure that, you know, I would go over to this group, and then I'd go visit my friend over in this group and this one. And that's just always how I naturally was. Now, would I ever have thought of that in my younger years? Thought, well, that's one of my strengths? No. But looking back at it now, I can see that that really shaped who I am. And it was just something that was so natural because it was just always who I was.
You know, it's just kind of funny. I said this opening up, right? Like the commonalities here that, you know, if somebody were to really look and pay attention, and you know, again, a guy like me can learn from a woman like you, right? Like that shouldn't, you know, have a bearing on things. But sometimes, you know, us guys, stubborn or whatever else, relate to men better, or women to women, and that's all fine. But we need to open up ourselves. You know, I always encourage people to have multiple mentors, right? Like for a guy, yeah, we're going to flock to guys typically. But, you know, guys, you need to have a female mentor, right? I have them. You know, you should also have, you know, mentors of different backgrounds and ethnicity and cultures and just different things like that, because it gives us better perspective, right? We can start empathy, or empathizing with others. And that's what it sounds like with you, really, that you were able to do. You were able to wear your heart on your sleeve, and you were able to have great empathy for people, and get them to open up, get them to, and you were that sounding board, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're able to help encourage them, and that's really what we should be doing as people. Is building up one another as opposed to tearing one another down, right?
Absolutely.
So, one of the other things that you pointed out here, now this is kind of almost a 180 from what we were just saying,
Mm-hmm.
though, but I think it's so important to mention because you touched on this for a second, was, we can get so wrapped up in all the hustle and bustle, and, especially if you're starting a new career or new business or all kinds of things, right? We do so much. And you point out specifically that we need to take time for ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way you said it was, take care of yourself first in order to serve others with strength. And I just love that little quote of yours in the book. I mean, it just was like, wow. Yeah. I mean, I talk about that. Like, you do need to take care of yourself because there is a balance to be had, right? But you took it like that step further. It's like, so you can serve others with strength. And it's just like, yeah, that clicks. So talk a little bit about that.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad that resonated with you. I truly believe that we do need to take care of ourselves. And in order to give to others, you have to have something to give. And so, people talk about, filling up your cup. Well, I believe that we really should fill it up so much that we can give people to overflow. Right? We need to guard and protect our own energy to be able to really focus on our personal growth and on our strengths and building them up so that we can have something to give to somebody else. Because if you're just giving and giving and giving, it's not going to serve anyone when you burn yourself out. And burnout is a real thing, and it has physical effects, it has mental and emotional effects. And when you are not paying attention to yourself at all and you're running yourself down, a lot of times we're not paying attention to what's going on with us. And if you burn yourself out to the point that you can't take care of anyone, who is that going to serve?
That's right.
So it's really important in, all of our roles, as men and as women, we play so many different roles in our lives, and we give to so many people. And a lot of us do have helping professions. So we may be leading others, we may be teaching others, we may be caring for others and serving others. But then we have families, we have households to run. We might have kids or aging parents, we have partners, right? And then we think of ourselves last. Well, you can't help any of those people if you don't help yourself first, in my eyes. And so to come from that place of strength means to come from that place of overflow to give to them.
That's so good. And that analogy too with the cup, right? We've heard it all before, but it's so true because, like, as a pastor, I've counseled people and different things, or just you just naturally talk to people, and kind of like yourself, right? Certain people just open up to you. And before I was even a pastor, I was kind of like, why do people always talk to me?
Yes.
But it's because that's a gift that God gives us and stuff. But when you pour out into someone else to build them up and whatnot, right? Like, at the end of it, I can feel a bit drained. Like, I'm tired, right? Like, So now I need to replenish, right? I need to take care of myself. And it goes back to what I said about balance, right? And as type A personality here, work, work, work. It's hard to find that balance. And I think that's really important that you pointed that out, especially here. We need to take care of ourselves first. As if we're sitting in a bed because we're sick, because we didn't take care of ourselves, we're no good to anyone, right? So it's very important. Now, one of the things here that I thought was interesting, it's also a thing I kind of like to teach on, and I'll just say it as this, like, for me, right? We learn things, right? That's our knowledge. Mm-hmm. And that knowledge that we gain isn't anything until we apply it, until we do something with it. And then we do that enough when we gain understanding, right? Mm-hmm. And through that understanding and applying that knowledge continuously, right? Then we acquire wisdom. Mm-hmm. So you talk about like what you learned in school and how you applied it to becoming, who you are today, and all of those lessons learned along the way, and the influence of family and different things like that. So I mean, help us all to understand that, because I think we can all learn, right, something. Mm-hmm. It may or may not come from a school. We may or may not apply it correctly. And it's made us, whether we have or not, into who we are, right? And maybe we need to unlearn something or relearn something better. Just, talk about that concept, right, of how we learn, how we apply these things, and show us like how to get somewhere.
That is a really good point, that sometimes we need to unlearn, right? Because, for example, you were talking about some of that programming, so to speak, or the things that are modeled for us when we're growing up. For example, you have to work really hard. We're not taught self-care. We're taught you don't want to be idle. You need to be go, go, go all the time. You have to work really hard and support your family. You need to give to other people, or it's selfish. We're taught all of these things that we're realizing that don't serve us anymore, right? They're just really not helping us. And so we may need to relearn some things, because we really aren't taught those life skills in school. And we're not taught a lot of the emotional management. We're not taught about, how to avoid being burnout or how to recover. We're not taught how to recharge our energy, because you're right. When you're helping other people, it's draining you, and then the next person drains you more. Well, when you get down to the end of the day, what are those people really getting from you? I mean, they're not really getting their best. And then you keep doing that, and you just ignore the signs your body gives you, mentally, emotionally, physically, that you're running down and you're running down. Well, we need to relearn how we utilize our time and how we would utilize our energy. And a lot of that is releasing some of that pressure and that expectation on ourselves. And it's really looking at, what is going to help me, help myself, and help other people. And how can I just try to learn, take those lessons, and make progress each day. I really believe that it's all about trying to make sure that we're focused on growth and we're focused on progress, instead of putting all that pressure on ourselves to be so perfect and to have everything the way that it should be. Right? So I think it's really important to focus on it, that it's a process and that it's a journey of growth, and to actually take those lessons and learn them so we're not repeating them over and over again, and we're not passing those same old programs that aren't healthy for us onto our children, right, onto the next generation, that we're not showing the people that we're serving that they need to have this facade of this perfection, or they need to have it all together. Actually, by being flawed, by being human, by learning along the way and sharing that with other people, we actually will grow more on our own, but then we'll also teach other people that it's okay to do that. So I do think it's really important that we realize that it's a lifelong journey. It's not something you're just going to master overnight.
And that's a good point. I think a lot of us don't think of things that way. Like, I don't know. I mean, even in the Christian circles, getting saved or something. I mean, that's a lifelong choice and decision you make, right? Where all of these things, the choice of going to college or not going to college, that's a lifelong choice and decision that you've made. Getting married could be a lifelong choice and decision that you've made, right? I mean, a lot of things are that way, but we don't think about them that way. We don't take that kind of stock to say, how is this really going to impact my life? Especially here in America, I think we tend to take a lot of things for granted. We work too much. We got that fast food mentality, and we might mean well, right? So like, get in a little bit more deeper here, because I want to plug this some more, where, what happens when we take all of our passions, those hopes, dreams, desires, but are passionate we got to work hard and all these things, and we start to work too hard. Like, what happens to us? Can you get into that for us?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So when we try to work too hard, and we're not stopping, and we're not taking care of ourselves, and we're not taking care of our needs, and we're not listening to our bodies, for example, and we start running down, is you're gonna see that you're not getting the results that you want. A lot of times people will start seeing that first. They're like, oh, I'm working so hard. You're supposed to work hard to get what you want. Well, we're really taught, at least especially in America, we're taught that you have to do in order to have, and then you're gonna like arrive, right? You're gonna like become this like arrived person. And it's not that way at all. It's actually that we need to take care of ourselves, and we need to focus on our growth in order to become who we were meant to be truly, right? And really focus on those strengths and focus on that growth and that journey. And then in the process of that, we can put it into action, and we can be doing, absolutely. But until you really focus on you and that growth, you're never going to have all of the things that you want, because you're actually going to be working so hard that you're not open to those lessons. You're not open to the growth, and you're not open to getting where you want to be. And so burnout is really what happens. It stops us in our tracks, because it'll be an inkling. It'll be, you get a little frustrated. Maybe you're not as enthusiastic. You're seeing some signs of stress. A lot of people will start having some physical symptoms when they start burning themselves out and they're working too hard, but we ignore them. You might get a headache. You might have some digestive issues. Your joints might hurt. All of these random things that we think, oh, I'm just, just getting a cold because the kids are sick, or, oh, there's just stuff going around, or, oh, it'll go away. I'm just going to keep working, right? And then it gets bigger, and then it gets bigger, and then you're sick more often. and then you get an ulcer, or or you start getting
Yep.
a lot of migraines, or all of these things happen. And it was exactly like what you mentioned earlier. It's like, then you're laid up and you can't do anything for anyone, and you're working so hard that you literally work yourself into the ground, or incapacitate yourself. And I know I've been there. When I was giving to other people, now I knew I was doing what I was called to do. Absolutely, I was helping other people, but I wasn't taking care of me, and my body wouldn't heal the way that it was supposed to. And it just wasn't working, and I was so tired and I was so stressed, and I just kept going until I literally had to just stop and say, okay, I'm not doing anyone any good, and I'm not getting anywhere I want to be doing this. It doesn't matter how much money you make because you're working so hard. If you can't enjoy it, and you can't help anyone, if you can't help yourself, if your health, we lose that, right? Your health, they say, is your wealth, right? And overall, it's your mental health, it's your physical health, it's your emotional and your spiritual well-being. All of those things go downhill if you're working yourself too much. And so I think in order to really take stock, you have to slow down, because you can't see what's going on unless you slow down and really take some time, to look within and say, is this working? Is what I'm doing right now serving me or anybody else?
And that's so key. That's so vital, right? Where and I want you to elaborate on this too, but like, what do we need to do our own selves, right? In order for us to take a look at ourselves and then learn from it. Like, I think this is a hard step because, I even talk about this in a couple of different aspects where, I believe you need to have good friends that will give you constructive criticism, feedback,
Mm-hmm.
on something that you should be able to go to them and say, hey, tell me about blah, right?
Yeah.
And you got to be able to accept that feedback, not get offended or anything, because they're your friend, right? They should mean well for you, not try to bring you down or anything, but you ask them the truth, right? So at the same time, with that kind of in mind, we need to do that ourselves. We should be able to take a look at ourselves, be real with ourselves, and learn from it. But like, how do we go about doing that? Are there some signs that we can look for? Is there tools that we can use? I mean, how do you encourage people to go about that?
So taking some moments just to stop. Sometimes we don't do that, right? We just are like going about our lives, and we're just like moving, and things are going, and we're so busy all of the time. And it's just, one thing after another that we're packing onto ourselves. And so taking moments to take a break and to actually sit and think, like, how am I feeling right now? We're so disconnected. Honestly, we're so disconnected from our bodies, from our emotions. We just think it's normal to be burning out all of the time. Most of my clients will say, yeah, I'm at kind of a low level burnout constantly. I live there. That's where I am. And
Yep.
so, like I said, getting support from the outside. So, listening and maybe reflecting on what they're telling you, what people are telling you, you're working really hard, or you're feeling not well, and they're like, maybe you should go get that checked out, or maybe you should take a break, maybe you should take a day off, and you haven't been listening. Start stopping, right? That's the first thing. Start stopping for a moment and just really thinking about, what has my body been trying to tell me? What are other people trying to tell me? Like, how am I feeling right now? Like, am I actually doing anything that makes me happy? Oh, that was a big wake up call for me. Was somebody asked me, Jodie, what brings you joy? I just thought it was the weirdest question. I was like, why are they asking me this question? Because I was in that mentality of it didn't matter. My life was full of stress and I was so busy and I was just didn't have an answer. And then I did sit down for a moment and thought, that's not good. If I can't answer this question, that
Right.
might be a problem. But when you're in it, I call it the snow globe with my clients. Like when you're in the snow globe, you've got that little, blizzard going on in there and you're in it, you can't see from the outside. And so you have to be able to sit and take a step back or ask other people or both, right? Get that outside support. Maybe it's a pastor, a therapist, a coach, a friend, a family member, a coworker. Who can you have like that's supporting you that you can actually maybe listen to? And so I really I encourage people to write things down. Maybe do a check-in with yourself. You can just start doing a daily check-in of, how are you feeling today? Like, what are you looking forward to? What's going well? What's not working? Start maybe just jotting some things down and taking some breaks, intermittent breaks. That's another thing that people can put in. That was really a key for me, was to take even, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and just sit and breathe every so often. Don't look at the screen, turn everything off just for 2 minutes even, and just sit and just listen. Like, how are you feeling? What do you need? Do you need to go get some water? Do you need to get up and walk around? We're so busy working all of the time that we ignore literally just basic needs, whether
Oh,
you
yeah.
need food, water, air. So stop and breathe, stop and take some water, go to the restroom, take a walk, whatever you need to do to just give yourself a couple minutes. It doesn't matter how busy you are. You can take a couple minutes a day to do some little daily check-ins with yourself and just do the littlest bit of self-care. And that's a good start.
And that's so important. I mean, you touched on a lot of things there that stress was a big thing, right? I mean, you hit the nail on the head right there. And it is so easy, and it's kind of interesting. So I have a corporate background as well. That some places anyway do teach you some things where you need to get up, have that drink of water, not look at the computer screen. And I know from having high blood pressure, breathing helps regulate your pressure, you know, and stuff like that. So I know that you have like this 7-tip program, if you will, to help reduce stress. And I think this plays right into that. If maybe you want to speak a little bit about this, and people can find this on your website and subscribe to it to get this information, and that information's down below in the channel here, and of course you can share it with us. But give us some tips, like how do we reduce the stress?
Yeah. So one of the things that you touched on, breathing, right? Just breathe. I absolutely take those couple minutes and just focus on breathing. We don't do it nearly enough. There are a lot of different mindfulness types of techniques, and it doesn't mean that you have to take a lot of time out of your day to do any of them. Just really sitting and maybe turning off the notifications while you eat, for example. You could do that. You could turn it off at night. Have a good morning and evening routine to take care of yourself. Just bookend your days is what I call it. With just a little bit of self-care, of just making sure that you aren't always running all of the time. Another thing you can do is get it out of your head. Like I was saying, write it down. Your to-do list, all the things that you're stressed about. Just if you don't have everything up here in your mind all of the time, it can free up some of that space for you to be able to just relax a little bit more. And finding those things that you enjoy. figuring out, what the music is that you love, or do you like to take walks or run? What are those things that are really meditative for you? I love dance and I love swim. I love to swim laps. I was a competitive swimmer when I was in high school, and it was just kind of meditative for me. And so I started incorporating more of those types of things into my life, just little things I could do to reduce stress, but also to get back to things I really loved and the things that I enjoyed, so that I could recover. And then just putting different strategies, some of these things like the bookending your days and taking breaks intermittently, things like that will help you also prevent burnout in the future. And so, yes, I have my 7 stress less tips guide, and it is on my website. You said the information will be in the description, but it's psychupsuccess.com is my website. And so they can download it right there and start taking advantage of some of those tips, and keeping it in front of you. Highly recommend putting those things on your to-do list. Make self-care a reminder in your phone, or actually schedule your breaks in. That is something I still do. I put in my calendar personal time for myself in between my appointments, so that I can recharge, that I can refuel, because if left to our own devices, I think you and I are very similar, right? We'll just go, 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 and go from one thing to the next, without taking those breaks. So I schedule it in for myself, and absolutely happy to share that with anyone who's listening. That guide has been, really amazing for a lot of my clients, but are also actually tips that I use every day for myself.
Well, and I've had that where even working at home, you'd think, oh, it'd be more relaxing, whatever. No, I like focusing even harder. And my wife has had to bring me food so I'd actually eat something during the day, Otherwise, I'm just too focused in on stuff. I got too many meetings, and, yeah, it can be tough, right?
Yeah. I found it's actually worse for people. So ever since, the pandemic started and people made that shift to having to work from home, and now sometimes continuing to choose to work from home because we do love it, there are more distractions, but there are also less boundaries. That's what I found. When you are going to an office, you walk out the door, you close it behind you, you drive, so you have a little transition time, and then you're at work, and home is not within your sights. Right? Now, when we're working from home, we don't have that. So you don't have that transition time when you drive home, and then it's separated. You walk in the house, and this is where you live. You go to the office, and that's where you work. And so we have to create that for ourselves now, which is a challenge for people, because, there are all the things. You've got the kids and the cat and the dog and your spouse, and, you have all of these things going on. And then you not only have that, but you have all the business stuff. You might have laundry, or you might have, things that were on the to-do list that aren't done yet, and they're all staring at you. And so we are just working and not taking any breaks. And like I said, we forget to feed ourselves. I'm one of those too. I have to make sure that I schedule in times to eat, because if I get too busy, I will forget. And so always making sure that you are feeding yourself, you're, hydrating, you're doing all those things is really, really important, because now there's no boundaries. We just work where we live. So we work all the time. And so making sure that you set things down, that you have a door you can close, or that you have a curtain, or that you have a laptop you can close, or that you just turn things off when it's time. So I think it's important for people to avoid that burnout and to have that self-care, to make sure that you do compartmentalize more, even working from home. Otherwise what happens is people will be on their phone working while they're with their family, right? Or they'll feel the guilt of not working when they're with their family, or not being with their family when they're working. And when all of the things are mixed together, nobody gets the quality time from you. Nobody gets your best again, right? Because we're not focusing just on the one thing. We're focusing either too much, we're hyper focusing on one thing, or we are not focused enough on anything that we're not able to actually be as productive as we wanted to be. And we're not giving that quality time for ourselves, our family, and work.
So true. Yeah, we really need to have that balance, that perspective, that mind shift. But take a look at yourself, good and bad, otherwise, right, and make some appropriate changes. Take that time out for yourself, like you've been talking about, and realize again, I just love, I'm going to use your quote, which is that take care of yourself first in order to serve others with strength. It's just so important. And I want to give you some more time here to maybe say something that we haven't covered that maybe is in your book, or if you want to talk a little bit more about the book we're going to be in together with Les Brown and John Tallarico, feel free to inspire us, motivate us, tell us how to get out of the muck and the mire that we're in.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that I would love to share is my definition, what motivation really is. And it really is that desire, right? That desire to change. The thing I love is I love working with people who are ready. They're like, okay, maybe they don't know what's going on. They don't know how they're going to change, but they're ready. They know that they're done, and they know that they're ready to move on to the next thing. And so it's that desire, that inner desire to work towards a goal. And that's how you change habits, is you really just start with one tiny thing at a time. Sometimes we think, okay, I'm going to make this change, and we try to change everything. And then we get overwhelmed, and it's too much, and it shuts us down. And so really looking at, what do you want to work on? And then breaking it down into just something so small. They said just maybe that 2 minutes a day, you're going to start breathing, right? Just focusing on that. And then you add some more pieces to that. So yeah, absolutely. Looking at, what are you really good at? What are your strengths? Like we were saying, my chapter is embracing our strengths. So, what are you naturally really good at? But what are some things you need to work on, or that you can give to other people who have that strength? Because other people are around us for a reason, and they all have different strengths, and a lot of them complement ours. And so one thing is, try not to overwhelm yourself by trying to change too much at once, but also try not to do it all yourself. We can help other people. We can empower really other people by allowing them to help us as well. Right? Doing everything yourself also doesn't serve other people in the best way. And so I think it's important, as we're trying to change these habits, as we're trying to get out of that go mentality, that we remember that it's not weakness to ask other people for their support. To usually they've already been asking, oh, do you need help with that? Oh no, I've got it. I can do this all by myself. That's what we say. And so knowing that it is strength to be able to empower other people, and also to realize that it is that process of growth. It is that process of, one step at a time. There's no arrival. We're all on that journey, and we're just trying to look for those lessons and do the best that we can and learn from them every day. And that's really why, I wanted to share and be an author. This all came about kind of a little bit unexpectedly for me, because I had seen Les Brown speak. I had been there in an arena and seen him on stage and seen all of the other speakers, and was always so inspired by him. And then when I started working more virtually, around the time, I started before the pandemic, but around the time that all the shutdowns began, people moved to virtual, and speaking became virtual. And so I was actually invited to be a part of a speaking tour that Les was on, which was really exciting. And Apostle Deborah Allen was there. And that's how she and I connected, is we had met through this virtual speaking tour that we were doing. And she asked me to be a part of my first anthology. And that was really exciting because I'd never done anything like that, but it sounded like fun. And she said, "You have such an amazing story. You need to tell it to more people and you need to share with more people." And I thought, okay, I could definitely do that. And she said, "Les Brown is forwarding this book." And I thought, okay, I have to be in on this now, right? Because he had been so inspirational to me when I was, in my journey of growth, which I'm still in because we all still are. But as I was even thinking, oh, I could maybe be a speaker, as I was thinking, oh, maybe I have something I could share to more people, right? He was one of those people that showed me that that was possible. And so that one was also women's anthology. It was called Fierce Women Roaring into Purpose, From Pain to Purpose. And then that was such a great experience for me that when Apostle Deborah said she was going to team up with Dr. Pamela Hinkle on Women of Power, Ignited to Serve, and said, "I would love for you to be a part of this too," that I jumped at the chance. And so it was just another incredible experience of people really supporting each other. And I loved the anthology concept because you're not doing it all alone. You have so much support. And so that is what now led to this book that you and I are doing together, which is all about the greatness in you. And it's with Les Brown and John Tellerico, not just forward this time, headlining this book and bringing us all together, men and women, to share about our own stories of, stepping into our own greatness. And for me, a lot of that was never having thought that I was going to be on that bigger stage, never realizing that I would enjoy, let alone, be known for public speaking and for being an author. And that is just definitely a huge part of my journey, from somebody who, yes, had those abilities to connect one-on-one, but was shy with public speaking and never knew that that was something that I would like, let alone do as part of my career, and it was actually a way that I could fulfill my purpose. So I'm just really excited to be a part of that with you and to get to know you better, because the connections I've made through these anthologies have been absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I'm looking super forward to it. And it goes a little back to what I said earlier, and it's a great example for all of those out there watching, especially if anyone knows who Les Brown is, right? I mean, he's a motivational speaker that's been around forever, right? I'd be surprised if you don't know who Les Brown is. But his background, he's from the South, he's a Black gentleman, and like, such a powerful story he has, and he mentors us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, like, we all can learn, right? And we all need to grow, and so much of this stuff. And I love the title of the anthology, right? The Greatness in You. It's going to be so powerful. But back to the Women of Power Ignited to Serve. That was so awesome. And again, I love it here, because here's your book. You would think, based on the title, it's women. It's nothing but women in the book. Like, why would a guy pick it up? I mean, I encourage you to do it, because, wow, there is so much in there that, men, you can learn about yourself, but it might actually help you learn a thing or two about women. And that's kind of the interesting thing, is like, largely we're clueless, right? but if you see things from their perspective, right? Shift that mindset a little bit, be a little bit more open, you can learn something. And that's what all of this should be about, right? We want to leave people here today, especially from this podcast, feeling empowered, feeling like they can take action, you know, get out of that muck and the mire that you're in, that self-loathing or whatever, that funk that you're in, the things that are telling you you're no good and you can't do it. That's all wrong. That's all garbage, right? I don't care who you are, where you've been, what you've been through. I mean, I've got quite a story. We can't share that here right now, but we all go through stuff. And, we all have our stories to tell. You may or may not have this anthology outlet like we're talking about right now, but you have a way to share that with others that are in your life and learn and grow from that and move on. And maybe you'll become a motivational speaker. Start a podcast channel like this, or who knows, whatever else, right? You've got things that you're called to do. And so lastly, again, Jodie, I want you to take this time to do that, to motivate people, tell them how to get out of the stuff that they're in, and what steps should they take next?
Yeah. I think that it is so important to get to know you, to really start looking inward and figure out what is important to you. What are your values? What are your strengths? What are the things that you can use to motivate you? Knowing why, right? Why you're doing what you're doing is so important for you to stay motivated, to work towards those goals, to help the people that you want to help, right? To be able to serve others, you have to know what you're serving them for, and you need to know why. How is it going to benefit them? How is it going to benefit you? How's it going to benefit your family for you to make these changes in your life? So really looking at, what is most important to you? Are you living your life like that's most important to you? That's a great question you can ask yourself. Really looking at what do you value, and are the decisions you are making and how you're spending your time every day supporting those values? Is what you're doing today serving you? Is it serving those people that you want to serve? Or is it just staying busy, right? Or just doing what you think is expected of you or what you should be doing, right? But is it actually accomplishing the goal? Right? Is it getting you closer to that why? A lot of people just crave connection with you. So are you just working, but you're not spending that quality time with your family? Right? Maybe that's all they want, right? They want that. They need that. Are you able to do that? Are you able to serve the people in your community? Are you able to do those things that you want to do? And so I think it is so possible. If you have the desire to make a change, to work towards a goal, whether it's changing your habits, changing those negative thoughts, right? Really changing your relationships for the better, your finances, your health, know why you're doing it. Are you wanting to get healthy because you want to be here for your kids' graduation and their wedding and when they have kids, right? What are you doing this for? So really looking at the why is going to be really helpful for you to stay motivated in whatever that goal is, and then get support. It's really important, again, not to act like an island, not to try to do it all by yourself. Get that support. Reach out to those people that lift you up. Make sure that you find, whether that's friends and family, if you have positive people in your life that can help make you feel better about yourself and help support you, help give you that honest feedback. If not, and even if you do, get some outside support too. Get some support from a pastor, from a therapist, from a coach, from a mentor, right? Someone who can see those things from the outside and maybe not have a vested interest. Sometimes our family, we love them and they're trying to protect us, but they are inside the snow globe with us. So find some of that outside support as well. Those are things that you can do to make those changes that you want to make, to really grow and change your life for the better.
That's so good. I encourage you all out there, especially, doesn't matter who you are, what walk of life you're from, where you've been, your personality type. Us type A individuals need help, right? We need somebody to talk to. So I hope that what you've heard here today empowers you, it motivates you, it inspires you. But if you need that connection, you need to reach out to somebody. Contact Jodie in the information below. Reach out to myself if that's a better fit for you. But either way, you need the help sometimes, and it's okay to ask. And that's what's important here, is that you take the time to better yourself, to take care of yourself, again, as Jodie says, so that you can strengthen others also. So, hey, thank you, Jodie, for coming on tonight, and loved having you here. Everyone, I also just thank you for being here, and until next time, everyone, be blessed.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Follow Donato on Facebook and LinkedIn at Donato Parisi, or go to donatomotivates.com. Remember, you can be anything you want and desire. All you have to do is get motivated.